Originally, I was only going to remaster and re-edit the Trakeena video, but I said, screw it! I'm going to remaster every video I've posted throughout the 5 years to please new viewers of the content for this fan series of these Rangers and miscellaneous content I have done regarding the TV show itself and the fandom overall. And looking back, there are lots and lots of mistakes and errors I have to correct from the originals of these videos for these revised versions, as well as eliminating references from what was going on in my real life at the time of all of this. Last time, we covered one of my favorite female villains from Power Rangers, Lost Galaxy in particular. Now it's time to put focus on her no-good doing and conniving traitor, Deviot, in which I'm actually doing the voice of in my latest fan film of Power Rangers, Lost Galaxy, and not really the original voice artist behind Megatron from the Transformers franchise. Well, in my initial attempts of making a fan film based on my favorite Power Ranger season, I have once wanted to model Deviot's vocal influence from veteran voice actor Frank Welker, mainly because Megatron. It's just, hearing his voice gives me chills, which I love because not only am I a Power Rangers fan, but a Transformers one as well. Thinking about the Trakeena Deviot rivalry in the TV series, however, if you dissect the two's character arcs as villains in Lost Galaxy, you'll get the sense of comparison of Megatron and Starscream between the two, with Trakeena being like a female Megatron and Deviot being the Starscream of our show. Think about it. In Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, Deviot's character arc was him coming in once Trakeena was believed to be gone for good, desiring to serve Scorpius while presenting him 3 lost Zords that was under his control at one point until the Rangers gained control of them. Later in the aforementioned two-parter, berating Trakeena once she came back to the Scorpion Stinger, showed some loyalty to her for a while, scheming a way for him to use Trakeena's cocoon when she wasn't going to be around on his behalf, steal the Galaxy book, join sides with Captain Mutiny when following the Rangers into the Lost Galaxy, and finally betray Trakeena, which unfortunately, as we knew in the TV show version, would cause him to get backstabbed by Villamax who was under Trakeena's orders, but for betraying her army, and later reeled her right alongside himself into the cocoon to merge together, and that was the end of him. Deviot is my second villain from the series following Trakeena that I had at a long point wanted to bring into the film series of mine as well. Like in my Morphin Grid case study video for Trakeena, I have done some concept and fan art of Deviot for the film, but unlike my fan art of Trakeena, I have only done 2 pieces of artwork sporting his original design from the series and the Sentai. I can see if I came up with a modernized update to my original series design like I've already done with Trakeena prior. This fan art I drew and created was done way before I even started pursuing my passion of actually making a fan film of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, which at the time of this remaster took me 7 years, hence why I prolonged making this because of bullcrap reasons and excuses. At first, I thought Deviot was a very least appealing villain due to how much I've been a Trakeena fan than a fan of the other villains from the season. But taking much further into his presence in the series, at the time when I started seeing the series again in so long, thanks to my purchasing of the Power Rangers Lost Galaxy Complete Series DVD by Shout Factory in late 2015, I started to now resonate in full of his character and really became attached to his character around the point after revisiting my favorite season of the show in a bigger scope than before. Thanks Shout Factory for the DVDs. When I did the initial video in 2012, this was split into 4 parts, and each part was at least 8 to 10 minutes of me mindlessly rambling about the character and the many different paper doll models of Deviot that I have done. As seen in this, much like in the Trakeena ones, these 3 paper dolls of Deviot were, like Trakeena, prototypes that I have done and used during when I did the initial version of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy The Rise of Trakeena until its abrupt abandonment after 2011. Unlike the original videos of this, I will quickly go through each of these models as much as possible for at least, let's say, 20 minutes or less in this re-edit of the featurette for your consumption. Man, all my older videos like this were so TMI. First is the basic Deviot puppet, which I did while I was working on the original version of the fan film in 2010. This Deviot puppet contained lots of parts up to his traditional design, as seen in Power Rangers and the Sentai, but it also contained, for the rest of his body, the body of Megatron from Transformers Animated. I hate that series. Good thing I never bought any of the toys of it when it was still going on Cartoon Network between 2008 and 2009. This was me back then trying to pay sort of an homage to Megatron from Transformers, considering my original imagination if Frank Welker were to voice a villain like Deviot in a Power Rangers anything, when knowing Frank never was in Power Rangers. I know, fan casting. Understand that. Sure, this may have been my rough design of him back then, but this is why my current puppet of Deviot, which I did in 2013, looks much better than my initial. At least I was still trying to make it seem accurate to his TV series design. Hasbro, sue me. Second is my rendition of his mutated form from the TV series. The hodgepodging to this, however, seems off. Like my basic Deviot form of his character puppet, at least I tried at this point to make his mutant form design almost accurate to his original from both the Sentai and Power Ranger versions. I did combine elements from the Transformers animated Megatron with a leg piece of Nightmare from the Soul Calibur games, if I stand correctly. The last time I created this puppet was in 2011, before I was about to be done with high school at the time, been long, and when I made it, I think I printed out a piece of Nightmare's body, but combined his right leg with Megatron's left leg. I used the same headshot of Deviot from the To the 10th Power episode of Lost Galaxy from before, which is a face scan anyway. You know, screen cap scan anyway. This time for this version, I cut his bat-like ears off for my represented rendition of his mutant form from the TV series. This has been in storage for a while, if not for a long time after 2011. And finally, this made-up custom duplicate of Deviot, if he was split into three, if his third form was this world dominator or some crap like that. I made this also in 2011 as well. When the Rise of Trakeena was shut down 6 years ago this month at my former school's campus at the time of this video's re-edit, I dubbed this Deviot puppet the Doctor, or Brunt, when really Brunt is also, and speaking of Brunt, that's also the name of a monster rarely even used back in Race to the Rescue in Lost Galaxy. And made this Deviot puppet based on the yet again other Megatron from an infamous incarnation of the Transformers. This time, this one based on a particular Megatron incarnation is from the first Michael Bay directed Transformers movie from 2007. And that was that. This was all of this was during my following under the influence of that G.I. Joe movie. No, not that G.I. Joe movie. The G.I. Joe movie before it. You know, the one with Joseph Gordon-Levitt as that Lord Zed knockoff of a Cobra Commander, and that bitch who ruined the Baroness's character in that film at the time I did this fan film until I abandoned it because creative differences and bullshit. 6 years later, I hardly ever used this one. Maybe I just didn't feel like representing this one on screen when I did do the Rise of Trakeena, or maybe I just was lazy. Yeah, that's right. I was just lazy and was feeling utterly bored. So there you have it. Like the many puppets of Trakeena I've done, these puppets of Deviot I showed off in my original video of this were prototypes and rough models before I crafted the final model of him, that in which stayed true to his original design and counterpart with a bit of updated touches to his design. And by the by, in my newer films of Power Rangers, I actually am the voice of Deviot. Been doing the voice of him since late 2015.
Just halfway finished with every single one of you!
For those who want to know how I made his voice, after I would finish filming any scenes with him involved, I would, since most of my newer videos are being edited mostly on Sony Vegas and still click the audio plug of effects and of pitch shift, equalizer, and reverb, and set my voice of the character to -1 in pitch shift, low pitch, and the plate setting on the reverb setting as if it were my voice to sound robotic and in a vocoder like in the G1 Transformers series, which it is not, and with the equalizer to the audio of my voice of the character to have that deep bass to it. So within less than 20 minutes with Deviot covered in my Redux Morphin Grid case study archive, I know it's very short, But there's nothing much to say about Deviot. I mean, in terms of his tenure as a villain in Power Rangers. So with him done for my Redux Morphin Grid Case Study Archives, we will revisit the honorable adversary of Trakeena's army and loyal general of hers, that was Villamax.